Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Magnanatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतं स्वाकता कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृद्यन्दस्तोयभद्राणि विदुनुति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Before reciting this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Today we start the chapter 6. Creation of the universal form. Text number 1. Rishiruvacha iti tasam svashaktinam shatinama sametyasa prasupta lokatantranam nishamya gatimishvara. Sri Rishi Uvacha, the Rishi Maitreya said, Iti thus, tasam, their, svashaktinam, own potency, satinam, so situated, asamitya, without combination, saha, he, the Lord, prasupta, suspended, lokatantranam, in the universal creations, nishamaya, hearing, gatim, progress, Ishvara, the Lord, translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the Lord due to the non-combination of his potencies, such as the Mahatattva. This sounds like a really complex sentence. Let's see what definition of suspension. The temporary prevention of something from continuing. Thus the Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies, such as Mahatattva. What this means, non-combination? Okay, let's see purport. There is nothing wanting in the creation of the Lord. All the potencies are there in dormant state. But unless they are combined by the will of the Lord, nothing can progress. The suspended progressive work of creation can only be revived by the direction of the Lord. So, where did this end? So, in the previous verse, everything was created by the glance of Lord. Please give us who are created in the beginning from the Mahatattva, the total cosmic energy, your kind directions on how shall we act. Then the created beings were there, but they didn't know how to act. Kindly award us your perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in different departments of subsequent creation. The Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potencies such as Mahatattva. कालासंज्ञानं तदा देवीं बिभ्राचक्तिमुरुक्रमा त्रयोविश त्रयोविंशतितत्त्वानां गणं युगापदाविशत्. Kalasamganam, known as Kali. Tada, at that time, Devim, the goddess, Bibrat, destructive, Shaktim, potency, Urukrama, the supreme powerful, Trayovimshati, 23, Tattvanam, of the elements, Ganam, all of them, Yugapats, simultaneously, Avishat, entered. Translation. The supreme powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with the goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements. So nothing was happening. Then the Lord entered with goddess Kali into everything. The external energy. Purport. The ingredients of matter are counted as 23, the total material energy, Mahatattva. False ego, sound, touch, form, taste, smell, earth, water, fire, air, sky, eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin, hand, leg, evacuating organ, genitals, speech, and mind. All are combined together by the influence of time and are again dissolved in the course of time. Time, therefore, is the energy of the Lord and acts in her own way by the direction of the Lord. This energy is called Kali, Kali, and is represented by the dark destructive goddess generally worshipped by persons influenced by the mode of darkness or ignorance in material existence. In the Vedic hymn, this process is described as Mula Prakritir Avikritir Mahadadya Prakritir Vikratayam Saptasura Shakastu Vikaro Na Prakritir Na Vikritir Purusha. The energy, which acts as material nature in a combination of 23 ingredients, is not the final source of creation. The Lord enters into the elements and applies his energy called Kali. The energy which acts as material nature in a combination of 23 ingredients is not the final source of creation. In all other Vedic scriptures, the same principle is accepted. In Brahma Samhita it is stated, Ekopyasau rachayitum jagadanda kotim yachaktirasti jagadanda chayad yadanta antantarashta paramanu chayantarastam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma Samhita 5:35. I worship the primeval Lord, Govinda, who is the original personality of Godhead. By his partial plenary expansion, Mahavishnu, he enters into material nature and then into each and every universe as Karbodakasai Vishnu, and then as Kshirodakasai Vishnu into all the elements, including every atom of matter. Such manifestation of cosmic creation are innumerable, both in the universes and in the individual atoms. Similarly, this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:42. Athava bahunaitena kim jnana tena tavarjuna vishtabhyaham idam krishnam ekam shena stito jagad. O Arjuna, there is no necessity of your knowing about my innumerable energies which act in various waves. I enter into the material creation by my partial plenary expansion, Paramatma or Supersoul, in all the universes and in all the elements thereof, and thus the work of creation goes on. The wonderful activities of material nature are due to Lord Krishna, and thus he is the final cause or the ultimate cause of all causes. Hmm. So the Lord enters into the nature and into all the elements as time. Without time, nature cannot work alone. Who wants to read? Hare Krishna, Shubham Prabhu, Tandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Vishnu Prabhu also, Tandar Pranam, Jai
Hare
Shri.
Krishna Prabhu Dhanot
Yes,
Pram.
Prabhu. Hare
May
Krishna,
I
Tandar
read
Jai Shri.
one more?
Yes, Prabhu.
Sono Pravisto
Oh, 1 second.
Bhagavan.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Prabhu, can you little scroll down because I read by Sanskrit. Yes, Prabhu. Sono Pravisto Bhagavan. Yes, Chestaropena Tam Garam. Bhinnam Sanyodayamasa. Suptam Karma Prabodhayan. Sahadat Nuprastha, thus entering later on the personality of God, Chesta Rupen by his representation of attempts, Kali, Tam, them, Ganam, all the divinities, including the demigods, Pinnam, Spravo, Skolap, separatedly, Sanyojayamas engaged them to work, Suptam sleeping, Karma work, Prodhan enlightenment. Translation and purport by his own grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, when the personality of Godhead enters into the element by energy, all the divinities are involved into different activities, just as one engages in his work after awakening from sleep. So may I read translation once again?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thus, when the personality of Godhead enters into the element by his energy, all the living entities are involved into different activities, just as one engages in his work after awakening from sleep. Purpose. Every individual soul remains unconscious after the dissolution of the creation and thus enters into the Lord with his material energy. These individual divinities are conditioned soul everlastingly but inside. But in each and every material creation, they are given a chance to liberate them and become free souls. They are all given a chance to take advantage of the Vedic wisdom and find out what is their relationship with the Supreme Lord, how they can be liberated, and what the ultimate profit is in such liberation. By properly studying the Vedas, one becomes conscious of his position and the stakes to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord and is gradually promoted to the spiritual sky. The individual souls in the material world engages in different activities according to their past unfinished desires. After the dissolution of a particular body, the individual soul forgets everything but the all merciful Lord who is situated in everyone's heart as the witness. The super soul awakens him and reminds him of his past desires, and thus he begins to act accordingly in his next life. This unseen guidance is described as fate, and a sensible man can understand that this continues his material bondage in the three modes of nature. The unconscious sleeping stage of living entity just after the partial or total dissolution of the creation is wrongly accepted as the final stage of life by some less intelligent philosophers. After the dissolution of the Par- partial material body element remains unconscious for only a few months, and after the total dissolution of material case, he remains unconscious for many millions of years. But when the creation is again revived, he is awakened to his work by the Lord. Divinity is eternal and wakeful state of his consciousness manifested by activities is his natural condition of life. He cannot stop acting while awake and thus he acts according to his diverse desire. When his desires are trained in the transcendental service of the Lord, his life becomes perfect and he is promoted to the spiritual sky to enjoy eternal awakened life. Yes, Prabhu, may I read once more?
Yes, Prabhu.
प्रबुद्ध कर्मा देवेन त्रयोविंशतिको गुणः प्रेरितो जनयत् स्वभिर्मातृ मात्राभिरधिपूर्वसम् प्रबुद्ध awakened karma activities given by the will of the Supreme Trayovinsatika by the 23 principal ingredients guna combination prerita influence induced by Ajanayat manifested Swabhi by his personal Matabhi by plenary expansion Adipurusam the gigantic universal form. Translation. Yes, Prabhu, scroll up. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishnu body of the Lord came into existence. The Virat Uparvasrupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, which is very much appreciated by the impersonalist, is not an eternal form of the Lord. It is manifested by the supreme will of the Lord after the ingredients of the material creation. Lord Krishna exhibited his Virat. Lord Krishna exhibited this Virat or Visrup to Arjun just to convince the impersonalist that he is not the original personality of God. Krishna exhibited the Virat Rupa. It is not that Krishna was exhibited by the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is not therefore an eternal form of Lord exhibited in the spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of the Lord. The Archa Vigraha or the worshipful deity in the temple is a same manifestation of the Lord for the neophytes, but spite of their material touch, such a forms of the Lord as the Virat and Archa are all known different from his eternal form as Lord Krishna. Thank you, bro, very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu Haribol. Who will be next?
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Please.
Can I read a few verses?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Haribol. Yes.
Okay, I'll read 5. Text 5. परेण विशदा स्वस्मिन् मात्रया विश्वसृग्गणा चक्षुभन्योन्यम् आसाद्य यस्मिल्लोकश्चराचरा परेण by the Lord Vishada thus entering Swasmin by his own self Matraya by a plenary portion Vishwasrik the elements of universal creation Gana all Chukshobha transformed Anyonyam one another Asadya having obtained Yasmin in which Loga the planets Chara Achara movable and immovable. Translation. As the Lord, in his plenary portion, entered into the elements of universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. Purport. The elements of cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in his plenary portion. This means that matter does not increase or decrease unless it is spiritually touched. Matter is a product of spirit and increases only by the touch of spirit. The entire cosmic manifestation has not assumed its gigantic form by itself as wrongly calculated by less intelligent persons. As long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed, but without the spirit, matter stops increasing. For example, as long as there is spiritual consciousness within the material body of a living entity, the body increases to the required size, but a dead material body which has no spiritual consciousness stops increasing. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, importance is given to the spiritual consciousness, not the body. The entire cosmic body increased by the same process that we experience in our small bodies. One should not, however, foolishly think that the individual infinitesimal soul is the cause of gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The universal form is called the Virata Rupa because the Supreme Lord is within it in his plenary portion. Text 6. Hiranmaya sa Purusha. Can you scroll up, bro? हिरण्मय स पुरुष सहस्रपरिवत्सरान् आण्डकोश उवस्साभु सर्वसत्त्वोपबृंहिता Hiranmaya, the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who also assumes the Virata Rupa, Sa, he, Purusha, incarnation of Godhead, Sahasra, 1000, Parivatsaran, celestial years, Andakosha, within the global universe. Uvasa, resided. Apsu, on the water. Sarva Sattva, all living entities lying with him. Uba Brahmhida, so spread. Translation. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. Purport. After the Lord entered each and every universe as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of the planetary systems, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only one half of the complete universe. Before the manifestation takes place and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1000 celestial years. All the living entities injected within the womb of the Mahatattva are divided in all universes with the incarnation of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and all of them lie down with the Lord until Brahma is born. Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all the demigods and living creatures are born. Manu is the original father of mankind, and therefore, in Sanskrit, mankind is called Manushya. Humanity in different bodily qualities is distributed throughout the various planetary systems. Text 7.
Yes, Prabhu, this is really interesting that they are injected within the womb of Mahatattva, and already there they are divided in within the universes, and they are like sleeping like the Lord. That's really interesting.
And I think Brahma is going to be born.
Yes, Prabhu.
Text 1. Savai Vishwa Srijam Garbho Deva Karmatma Shaktiman Vibha Jatmana Atmanam Egada Dashada Trida. Sa, that, why, certainly, Vishwa, Srijam, of the gigantic Virata form, Garbha, total energy, Deva, living energy, Karma, activity of life, Atma, self, Shaktiman, full with potencies, Vibhabhaja, divided, Atmama, by himself, Atmanam, himself, Egada, in oneness, Dashadha, in 10, Trida, and in 3. Translation. The total energy of the Mahatattva in the form of the gigantic Virata Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively. Purport. Consciousness is the sign of the living entity or the soul. The existence of the soul is manifest in the form of consciousness, called Jnana Shakti. The total consciousness is that of the gigantic Virata Rupa, and the same consciousness is exhibited in individual persons. The activity of consciousness is performed through the air of life, which is of 10 divisions. The airs of life are called Prana, Apana, Udana, Vyana, and Samana, and are also differently qualified as Naga, Kurma, Krikara, Devadatta, and Dhananjaya. The consciousness of the soul becomes polluted by the material atmosphere, and thus various activities are exhibited in the false ego of bodily identification. These various activities are described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 241, as Buhusaga hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. The conditioned soul is bewildered into various activities for want of pure consciousness. In pure consciousness, the activity is one. The consciousness of the individual soul becomes one with the supreme consciousness when there is complete synthesis between the two. The monists believe that there is only one consciousness, whereas the Sattvadas or the devotees believe that although there is undoubtedly one consciousness, they are one because there is agreement. The individual consciousness is advised to dovetail with the supreme consciousness, as instructed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 1866. Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamegam Sharanam Braja. The individual consciousness, Arjuna, is advised to dovetail with the Supreme Consciousness and thus maintain his conscious purity. It is foolish to try to stop the activities of consciousness, but they can be purified when they are dovetailed with the Supreme. This consciousness is divided into three modes of self-identification according to the proportion of purity: Adhyatmic or self-identification with the body and mind, Adibaudik or self-identification with the material products, and Adidevik or self-identification as a servant of the Lord. Of the three, Adidevik self-identification is the beginning of purity of consciousness in pursuance of the desire of the Lord. Text 8. एषा हि अशेषसत्त्वानाम् आत्मांश परमात्मना आद्योऽवतारो यत्रासु भूतग्रामो विभाव्यते. Esha, this, he, certainly, Ashesha, unlimited, Sattvanam, living entities, Atma, self, Amsha, part, Paramatmana, of the Supersoul, Adya, the first, Avatara, incarnations, Yatra, whereupon, Asau, all those, Bhudagrama, the aggregate creations, Vibhavyade, flourish. Translation. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation, which thus flourishes. Purport. The Supreme Lord expands himself in two ways, by personal plenary expansions and separated minute expansions. The personal plenary expansions are Vishnu Tattvas, and the separated expansions are living entities. Since the living entities are very small, they are sometimes described as the marginal energy of the Lord, but the mystic yogis consider the living entities and the Supersoul, Paramatma, to be one and the same. It is, however, a minor point of controversy. After all, everything created rests on the gigantic Virata or universal form of the Lord. Text 9. साध्यात्म साधिदैवश्च साधिभूता इति त्रिधा विराट प्राणो दशविधा एकदा हृदयेन च. Sa Adhyatma, the body and mind with all the senses. Sa Adideva, and the controlling demigods of the senses. Sa Adibhuta, the present objectives. Idi, thus. Trida, three. Virat, gigantic. Prana, moving force. Dashavidha, 10 kinds. Egada, one only. Hrudayena, living energy. Cha, also. Translation. The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1 in the sense that he is the body and the mind and senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, and he is the one heart where life energy is generated. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, 4-5, it is stated that the 8 elements earth, water, fire, air, sky, mind, intelligence, and false ego are all products of the Lord's inferior energy, whereas the living entities who are seen to utilize the inferior energy originally belonging to the superior energy, the internal potency of the Lord. The 8 inferior energies work grossly and subtly, whereas the superior energy works as the central generating force. This is experienced in the human body. The gross elements, namely earth, etc., form the external gross body and are like a coat, whereas the subtle mind and false ego act like the inner clothing of the body. The movements of the body are first generated from the heart, and all the activities of the body are made possible by the senses, powered by 10 kinds of air within the body. The 10 kinds of air are described as follows. The main air passing through the nose in breathing is called prana. The air which passes through the rectum as evacuated bodily air is called apana. The air which adjusts the footstep within the stomach and which sometimes sound as belching is called samana. The air which passes through the throat and the stoppage of which constitutes suffocation is called udana air, and the total air which circulates throughout the entire body is called the vyana air. Subtle than these 5 airs, there are others also. That which facilitates the opening of eyes, mouth, etc. is called naga air. The air which increases appetite is called krikara air. The air which helps contraction is called kurma air. The air which helps relaxation by opening the mouth wide in yawning is called Devadatta air, and the air which helps sustenance is called Dhananjaya air. All these airs are generated from the center of the heart, which is one only. This central energy is superior energy of the Lord, which is seated within the heart with the soul of the body, who acts under the guidance of the Lord. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita as follows. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहम् एव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृत् वेदविद् एव चाहम्. The complete central force is generated from the heart by the Lord, who is seated there and who helps the conditioned soul in remembering and forgetting. The conditioned state is due to the soul's forgetfulness of his relationship of subordination to the Lord. One who wants to continue to forget the Lord is helped by the Lord to forget him birth after birth. But one who remembers him by dint of association with a devotee of the Lord is helped to remember him more and more. Thus, the conditioned soul can ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. This process of transcendental help by the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10 as follows. Tesham sadata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvagam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam ubayanti te. The Buddhi Yoga process of self-realization with intelligence transcendental to the mind. Scroll down, bro. To the mind, devotional service can alone elevate one from the conditioned state of material entanglement in the cosmic construction. The conditioned state of the living entity is like that of a person who is within the depths of the huge mechanical arrangement. The mental speculators can reach the point of Buddhi Yoga after many, many lifetimes of speculation. But the intelligent person who begins from the platform of intelligence above the mind makes rapid progress in self-realization. Because the Buddhi Yoga process entails no fear of deterioration or retrogression at any time, it is the guaranteed path to self-realization, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 240. The mental speculators cannot understand that the two birds, sitting in one tree are the soul and the bird does not eat the sitting in one tree are the soul and the super soul. The individual soul eats the fruit of the tree, while the other bird does not eat the fruit, but only observes the activities of the eating bird. The witness bird helps the bird which eats the fruit to perform fruitful activities without attachment. One who cannot understand this difference between the soul and the super soul, or God and the living entities, is certainly still in the entanglement of the cosmic machinery and thus must still await the time when he will be free from bondage. Hare Krishna. Anyone can continue. Thank you,
so
Prabhu.
much. One straight next. Rishikesh Prabhu or Dheeraj Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I can read.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Haribol.
Smaran text 10. Smaran Vishva Srijam Isho Vijñapitam Adokshaja Virajam Atapat Svena Tejasai Sam Vivrittaye. Synonyms: Smaran, remembering; Vishvasrijam, of the demigods entrusted with the task of cosmic construction; Isha, the Supreme Lord; Vijñapitam, as he was prayed for; Adhokshaja, the transcendence; Virajam, the gigantic universal form; Atap, Atapta, considering the Svena by his own tejas energy; Asian for them; Vivrit ये understanding the translation purport question basis translation purport की जाए. Translation: The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods who are entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he thought to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. Purport: The impersonalists are captivated. Purport: The impersonalists are captivated by the gigantic universal form of the Supreme. They think that the control behind this gigantic manifestation is imagination. Intelligent persons, however, can estimate the value of the cause by observing the wonders of the effects. For example, the individual human body does not develop from the womb of the mother independently, but because the living entity, the soul, is within the body. Without the living entity, a material body cannot automatically take shape or develop. When any material object displays development, it must be understood that there is a spiritual soul within the manifestation. The gigantic universe has developed gradually, just as the body of a child develops. The conception that the transcendence enters within the universe is therefore logical, as the materials cannot find the soul and the supersoul within the heart. Similarly, for want of sufficient knowledge, they cannot see that the supersoul, supreme soul, is the cause of the universe. The Lord is therefore described in the Vedic language as Avanamanasa Gochara, beyond the conception of words and minds. Due to poor fund of knowledge, the mental speculators try to bring the supreme with the pur- purview of words and minds, but the Lord refuses to be so intelligible. The speculator has no adequate words or minds to gauge the infinity of the Lord. The Lord is called Adokshaja, or the person who is beyond perception by the blunt, limited potency of our senses. One cannot perceive transcendental name or form of the Lord by mental speculation. The mundane PhDs are completely unable to speculate on the Supreme with their limited senses. Such attempts by the puffed up PhDs are compared to the philosophy of the frog in the well. The frog in the well was informed of the gigantic Pacific Ocean, and he began to puff himself in order to understand or measure the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean. Ultimately, the frog burst and died. The title PhD can also be interpreted as plow department, a title meant for tillers in the paddy field. The, the attempt of the tillers in the paddy field to understand the cosmic manifestation and the cause behind such wonderful work can be compared to the endeavor of the frog in the well to calculate the measurement of the Pacific Ocean. The Lord can reveal himself only to a person who is submissive and who engages in his transcendental loving service. The demigods controlling the elements and ingredients of universal affairs prayed to the Lord for guidance, and thus he manifested his gigantic form as he did at the request of Arjuna. Text 11. अथातस्याभिप्राप्तस्य कथितार्थनान्यथा निर्भिद्यान्देवानां तानि मे गदत्र शृणु. Synonyms. Atha, therefore, tasya is abhitaptasya in terms of his contemplation. Kathida, how many? Ayatanani, embodiments. There were nirbhidyanta, by separated parts. Devana, of the demigods. Tani, all those may. Gadata, described by me. Shnu, just here. Translation. Maitreya said, you may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into the, into the diverse forms of the demigods after manifestation of the gigantic universal form. Purport. The demigods are part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, as are all other living entities. The only difference between the demigods and the ordinary living entities is that when the living entities are rich in pious activities of devotional service to the Lord, and when their desire to lord it over the material nature has vanished, they are promoted to the post of demigod, who are entrusted by the Lord to execute management of the universal affairs. Text 12. तस्याग्निरस्यं निर्भिन्नं लोकपालो विशत्पदम् वाचा स्वांशेन वक्तव्यं ययासु प्रतिपद्यते tasya his Agni fire asya mouth nirbhinnam thus separated Lokapala the directors of material affairs Avishut entered Padam Ray spec- respective positions respective positions Vachya by words Swamshena by one's own part Vaktavyam speeches Yaya by which also they pratipadyate express. Translation. Agni or heat separated from his mouth, and all the directors of material affairs entered into their respective positions. By that energy, the living entities express himself in words. Purport: the mouth of the gigantic universal form of the Lord is the source of speaking power. The director of the fire element is the controlling deity or the Adidaiva. The speeches delivered are adhyatma or bodily functions, and the subject matter of the speeches is material productions or the Adibhuta principle. Text 13. निर्भिन्नं तलो वरुणो लोकपालो विषधरे जिह् जिह्वायां चरसं ययासो प्रतिपद्यते निर्भिन्नं separated तलो palate Varuna, the deity controlling air, Lokapala, director of the planets, Avishat entered Hare of the Lord Jivaya Amsena with the part of the tongue. Shiva also Rasam taste Yaya, by which Aso the living entity Pratipatyate expresses. Translation: when the palate of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of air in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus living entity has the facility to test everything with his tongue. Text 14. Nirbhinne Ashvinau Nase Vishnur Avishatam Padam Kriyanena Sena Gandhasya Pratipattiryato Bhavet. Nirbhinne thus being separated. Avish Ashvinau dual. Ashwinis, Nase of the two nostrils, Vishnu of the Lord, Avishtam entering Padam post, Granina, Amshena by partially smelling, Gandhasya aroma, Pratipatti experienced, Yata whereupon Bhavet becomes. Translation: when the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested, the dual Ashwini Kumaras entered them in their proper positions, and because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything. Text 15. Nirbhinne akshinitasta lokapalo vishadvipo chakshushamshena rupanam pratipattiryato bhavet. Nirbhinne, thus being separated, akshini, the eyes, tvasta, the sun, lokapala, director of light, avishat, entered Vibho of the great Chakshusha Amshena by the part of the eyesight Rupanam of the forms Pratipatti experience Yata by which Bhavet becomes. Translation: thereafter the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered with them with the partial representation of this eyesight, and thus the living entities can have vision of the forms. Text 16. Nirbhinya asya charmani lokapalo nilovishat pravnena shena samsparsham yena su pratipadyate nirbhinnani being separated asya of the gigantic form charmani kin lokapala the director anila air avishat entered pranena amshena in the part of the breathing samsparsham touch yena by which also the living entity pratipadyate can experience. Translation: when there was a manifestation of skin separated from the gigantic form, Anila, the deity directing the mind, entered with partial touch, and thus living entities can realize tactical knowledge. Text 17. Karanavasya vinirabhinno dishnayam swam vidishvat disha shrotrainam sena saptasya siddhim yena prapadyate. Karano, the ears, asya of the gigantic form, Vinir being thus separated, Tishnyam, the controlling deity Sriram, on Vivishu, entered Disha of the direction Shotrena Amsena, with the hearing principle Shabdasya of the sound Siddhim perfection Yena by which Prapadyate is experienced. Translation: when the ears of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling deities of the directions entered into them with the hearing principles by which all living entities hear and take advantage of sound. Purport. The ear is the most important instrument in the body of the living entity. Sound is the most important medium for carrying the message of distant and unknown things. The perfection of all sound or knowledge enters through the ear and makes one's life perfect. The entire Vedic system of knowledge is received by oral reception only, and thus sound is the most important source of knowledge. Text 18. Tvacham asya vinirvinnam vivishur tishnam osari amshena roma vikandum yair aso pratipadyate. Tvacham skin asya of the gigantic form vinirvinna being separately manifested. Vibhishu entered Tishnam, the controlling deity Ushadi sensations. Amshrina with parts roam away through the hairs on the body, kandum, itching, yai, by which also the living entity pratipadyate experiences. Translation. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensation and its different parts entered into it, and thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. Purport. For sense perception, there are two principal items, touch and itching, and both of them are controlled by the skin and hairs on the body. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the controlling deity of touch is air uh, passing within the body, and the controlling deity of the hairs on the body is Osadhya. For the skin, the object of perception is touch, and for the hairs on the body, the object of perception is itching. Text 19. Nedram tasya vinirvinnam patishyam ka upavishya upavishad retam sena yenaso anandam pratipadyate. Midram genitals, tasya of the gigantic form, vinirvinnam being separated, sadishnam, own position, ka, Brahma, the original living creature, Upavishat, entered Vedas Amshena, with the part of the semina yena by which also the living entity, Anandam, sex pleasure, Pratipadyate is experiences. Translation. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest. Then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semina, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. Text 20. Kudam pumso vinirvinnam mitro lokesha avishat payunam shena yenasau visargam pratipadyate. Gudam evacuating outlet pumsam Pumsa of the gigantic form Vinirvinnam being separately manifested Mitraha, the sun god Lokesha, the director named Mitra, Avishat entered Payum Amsena with the partial evacuation process Yena by which also the living entity Visargam evacuation Pratipadyate performs translation. The evacuating channel separately became manifest and the director named Mitra entered into it with partial organs and evacuation. Thus, the living entities are able to pass stool and urine.
Haribol. Okay, now we go to the six Astakam prayers because it's becoming 9 p.m. in India. Thank you so much, Prabhu. चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मास्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्.
Namnamaka Haribahuda.
Yes, Prabhu. Please continue.
नाम्नामकारि बहुधानि च सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पितानि अमिता स्मरणेन काल एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्ममोऽपि धृतैर्विदिश विहाचनेन नानुरागा
तृणादपि सुनिच्चैरा तडोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीया सदा हरि
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितं वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद्भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि
वैनन्दतनुज किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमभावाम्बुध कृपया तव पादपङ्कजास्थितधूलि सदृशं विचिन्तय
नयनं गलादश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदा हृदया गिरा पुलकेर्निजितं बभूकदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविर्ष्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे
अश्लेषवापादरतां विनष्टु माम् अदर्शनां मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एक न परः
Haribol. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One
One
should
should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a trade devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Almighty Lord,
Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want a number of followers. I only want your costliest devotional service birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your Lord's feet.
O my Lord, when will my eye be decorated with the tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up and when will the hair of my body stand on in that recitation of your name?
oh, in the feeling of separation and considering a moment about to be like earlier summer, years of coming from as like torrents of pain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly in his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Haribol, Sri Siksastakam ki jai. Bahujanma Karayati Shravana Kirtan Tabutana Paya Krishna Pade Premadan. If one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many birds, he will not get the love of God. That is the ultimate goal of this chanting. The 10 offenses against the holy name are as follows. The first offense is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord.
Second offense to consider the holy naming all to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu.
Third offense, to
Third
disobey
offense.
the order of the spiritual master, consider him as an ordinary person.
Fourth offense, to
Fourth
blaspheme the Vedic
offense,
literature or literature in presence of the Vedic version.
Offense to consider the
fifth,
glories of chanting Hare Krishna to vain imagination. Sixth offense to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh offense to commit
seventh
sinful
offense to
activities.
commit
Strength of the holy name of the Lord.
eighth offense to consider chanting of Hare Krishna one of auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as to activities Karma Kanda.
Ninth offense, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
Tenth offense to not have complete faith in chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachment even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. A devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success Krishna Prem.
Haribo. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nanda Krishna
Krishna
Vaishnava ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for your association. Please join the Easter Costi session tomorrow. Everyone, try to join. It would be really nice. Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhu.